Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our Boxmode webinar. My name is Vlad. I'm a part of marketing team in Boxmode, and we will start in a moment. So those of you who are running late have more time to join. And in the meantime, please let me know if you can hear me okay, and how you're doing today, where you're from. You can just write something in the chat so that I know that we are live and that you can hear me. Hi, Olivia. Hi, Alicia. Thanks for joining. Thanks for letting me know as you can hear me. Hi, John. Hello, Rabbit Airgun Training. Thanks for being here. Hi, Esgy. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for joining. And hi, George. And hi, Dan. Thanks for being here. Well, I think we can start. And hello, wonderful, beautiful people. My name is Vlad, and I worked at Boxmode. And before we start, let me say a couple of words about us. For those of you who are not familiar with the Boxmode, we're a young website building platform, and we believe that creating websites should be accessible to everyone, regardless of technical knowledge, experience, or budget. And we do understand that just having a beautifully crafted website isn't enough for building a comprehensive online presence. And the business website, it has to generate traffic. And so naturally, webmasters are concerned with the website promotion. And the website builder, in turn, must provide instruments that will allow implementation of different promotional tactics. And so we develop our platform with full awareness of all these aspects and concerns that webmasters have when building a website. And SEO is one of the important ways to boost your website visibility on the web. And during this webinar, we are going to embark upon the never-ending trip to the ever-evolving world of SEO. And I would really be interested to learn how familiar you are with the topic of SEO. And please press 1 if you have some knowledge, but not much. And please press 2 if you feel confident. So, and in the meantime, let me walk you through the structure of this webinar. First, we will briefly cover what SEO is and why is it important. We will discuss in very general terms how search engines work. And then we will talk very shortly about types of SEO. And the most of this webinar is going to be about some of the most important on-page SEO elements. And we have scheduled around 45 minutes for the main part. So it's not going to be short, but at the same time, we will be barely scratching the surface. And even then, we won't be able to cover in depth aforementioned points. So, and if you'd like to get away during some of the parts of this webinar, for your convenience, I have added the approximate time next to each point, which indicates how much it would take to cover it. And also you'll find this information in the description to this video. And also I'd like to tell you about what this webinar is not going to cover to make sure that we are on the same ground, to avoid any misunderstanding or failed expectations. Of course, any marketing initiative, including SEO, it starts with target market research, with competitors research, with keyword research. So these are very broad topics, and each of them deserves a separate discussion, and we will not be covering them. And also, we will not be talking about any comprehensive SEO strategies. We're not going to talk about any particular instruments, techniques, or approaches for doing keyword research, for doing competitors research, for building links, for building semantic core. And the main emphasis is going to be on some of the basic factors and elements of on-page optimization in terms of the Boxmode platform tools. But things that we'll be talking about can also be applied to other CMS. And I will ask my colleague to share a couple of articles we wrote on the target market research and the keyword research in the chat, so they can provide a sense of direction in these very crucial subjects. It will be especially useful for those of you who are just in the beginning of your learning curve, and you can check them out after the webinar. So let me check the chat. And I'm glad to see that we have a lot of beginners today. And it is great to know that you are exploring this very important topic. And by the end of this webinar, I hope that you will not just gain some new SEO insights, but you will be motivated to dig deeper into the subject and to learn more about its gravity and how essential it is for boosting your website visibility on the web. And those of you who have experience, even though we're going to talk about ABC, sometimes it is good to return back to basics. And also, if you are looking for a website building platform for your projects, you will see the functionality of our platform in terms of SEO. And also, I'm curious if you already have a website, and please press 1 if you already have a website, and press 2 if you don't have one yet. And I'll get back to you in a moment. So why bother with SEO? Most of the online experience nowadays, it starts with search engines. We search for products and services, we search for information, for reviews, for suggestions. Google handles almost 4 million searches per minute across the globe on average, and this number is constantly growing. So having your website prepared for such a gigantic traffic flow, it means a potentially colossal source of opportunities, possible conversions, and revenue. So what is SEO? SEO can be roughly defined as a set of strategies, techniques, and tactics for optimizing your website to rank higher in search results and to receive traffic from organic search results. Organic means non-paid. And when you search for something, especially when using some competitive keyword, more likely that you will see the paid advertisement in the search, and it is marked as ad. Even though the paid advertisement is a very powerful tool as well to generate traffic to a website, it is not related to SEO, and it goes beyond the topic of SEO. So SEO is about non-paid traffic only. Also, as a side note, I'd like to mention that there are lots of different search engines, and such as Bing, Baidu, and many others. But during this webinar, we will be talking about Google, as it is the largest search engine. And the things that we will be covering today, most of the things will be true for other search engines as well. So SEO, it can be divided into on-page and off-page SEO. And on-page SEO is a practice for optimizing web pages and the content on web pages to help them rank higher in search engines. And it is the only thing that you as a webmaster have full control over. Where the off-page SEO, it refers to activities taken outside of your own website, as the name suggests. And these activities are aimed to increase your website authority in the search. And off-page SEO is mostly about link building. So the concept is next. So the more links from trustworthy websites point to your website, the more your website is mentioned on third-party resources, the more higher it will get in search engine results, and the more weight it gains in the eyes of search engines. So, but always remember that before you start working on off-page SEO, before you start investing into promotion of your website, you must ensure that your website is ready in terms of on-page SEO, because promoting the website that is not properly optimized is not going to yield sufficient results. And on-page SEO, it's the foundation for further website promotional tactics. So, but how do you appear in a Google in the first place? The thing is that your website will not automatically show up in Google right after it was launched. In fact, when you search for something, Google doesn't start running around all over the internet trying to find what you're looking for. But instead, Google checks its own database of websites, and this database is called index. So Google would need to find your website somehow before it can be added to its index and before it can appear in search results after that. So Google uses the so-called crawlers or Google bots to discover new pages on the web. And these bots, they explore the web constantly, and they are trying to find new pages and add them to its index. But how crawlers can possibly find your website in this seemingly infinite web of internet? So most of the pages, they do have a lot of links, like links to main navigation menu, links to some external resources, or links to internal resources. So when Google analyzes a page, it scans its content, it saves this content to its index. But also when Google meets a link to another page, it sends its crawlers there. So he meets another link and it sends, again, crawlers to that link. And when the crawler arrives at new page, the same process starts all over again. So what it means, for your website to be discovered, someone has to put a link to your website to the resource that have already been investigated by Google. For example, it is considered a good practice, especially for small businesses, to submit your business and your website to a local directory like Yelp. And so when Google crawler reach that directory, it will find a newly added link to your website and send its crawlers to scan it. So, but there is more efficient way to let Google know about your website on your terms, and not waiting until Google will crawl some third-party service in the hope that it will discover a link to your website. So the best way to let Google know about your website is to submit the so-called sitemap in the Google Search Console. Now let's examine what the sitemap is, how it works, and how it looks on the example of the Boxmode based website. So I'm logged into the Boxmode dashboard. Let me check the chat. And thank you for answering my question about you having or not having a website. As I can see that not all of you do have a website. And let me digress a bit from the topic of this webinar. I promise you it's going to be short and only once. So Boxmode makes it simple to create a website. So you can create a professionally designed website that is customized to fit your brand vision. You can just pick up the template that you like. Basically, each template is a ready-made website where you can just substitute the content, the stock content with your own, and your website is basically ready after. And it is free to test all website building facilities with the Boxmode platform and requires no coding experience. And I'll ask my colleague to share a link to the webinar where we made a brief overview of the platform. So those of you who are interested can check it out later. So back to the sitemap. So what is a sitemap? Basically, the sitemap is a file that is usually located in the root folder of your website. If we're talking about Boxmode Builder, your sitemap will be located at your website URL /sitemap.xml. And if you use a different CMS platform, and in case it offers a sitemap functionality, it could be the same or it could be different. It depends. So sitemap is used to tell search engines about pages of your website that you would like to be crawled and displayed in search results. So it makes the process of crawling of your website more efficient and in a more intelligent way, which will benefit you. So the sitemap is among the first things that the Google checks when visiting your website. Of course, if the sitemap is available and if the link to the sitemap is added to the Robots.txt file, and we will talk about this file in a moment. So with the Boxmode, your sitemap is generated automatically based on pages that you have on your website. So for example, this website has 5 pages and all of them are here. And anytime you add or remove a page from Boxmode website, the sitemap is getting updated automatically. It is written using the so-called the XML language syntax. And this might look like a gibberish for a layperson from the first glance, but it looks it's really straightforward and simple in essence. So each page is represented as a pair of URL tags, so-called tags. So you can see this URL opening tag and the URL closing tag. The closing tag has this / in front of it. And different information about this page can be added, can be nested inside this URL tag. The only obligatory piece of information is the actual page URL. And this page URL is nested inside this log tag that stands for location. So let's see what other things we can do with the sitemap. And let's go to our project settings here and open our sitemap. So you can manually edit the sitemap with the Boxmode. So another piece of information that you can add here is a last mod, which stands for last time modified. So what it means, Google is not just looking for new pages. Google also revisits pages it's already added in its index to check if there are any updates. So crawlers, they will pay attention to the information that you put in the last mod tag and start recrawling the recently modified pages. And this should have a positive effect, especially in time-sensitive content ranking. But as a side note, I would like to tell you that there are a lot of things in SEO that are controversial and subject to debate. So last mod is one of such things. Some SEO experts will tell you that Google does not care what you put here in this last mod tag, and the frequency of Google revisiting the page is not influenced by the information that you add here. But a lot of people still use it and find it beneficial. It is definitely won't hurt if you add this information to the page if your page was modified. But make sure not put here any misleading information, meaning never tell Google that your page was modified when in fact it wasn't. So this will backfire. And make sure it is written in this format, year, month, date. So what are the things we need to know about the sitemap? Sometimes you don't want some of the pages from your website to appear in search, in Google search. And we'll discuss some of the such examples when talking about the Robots.txt file. And for now, if you don't want some of the pages to be crawled and indexed, the first step is to make sure that such page is not in the sitemap. And in our case, for example, if we want to remove this page from being crawled, we just need to pick out the line of code that represents the page and remove it. So as you remember, each page is represented as a pair of URL tags. We can just pick it out and just delete it from here like this. So, but removing it from here is not going to be sufficient enough to properly block the page from being indexed by search engines, and we'll discuss what other steps we need to take when talking about the Robots.txt file in a moment. So this is really brief overview of the sitemap, and now let's submit it to Google. So to do that, we need to go to the Google Search Console. And Google Search Console is a free service that lets you learn a great deal of information about your website. And it helps you to measure your site's traffic, search traffic, your website's performance. It helps you to see if there are any tech issues with your website. It is a must-have tool in the kit of any webmaster. So you can just Google Search Console, and you will find the link. First, you would need to have the Google account to register there. I already registered. But when you start registering, the first step that would be to add the URL of your page in this pop-up window. So let's do that. So let's add the URL of our website here. And on the next stage, you'll be prompted to verify that you are the owner of this website. And to do that, Google is asking you to add this snippet of text to the TXT records of the DNS settings of your domain. So don't worry if it sounds confusing. It's really easy. In case you purchase a custom domain from us, you can just simply contact our support team, and they will help you to finalize this verification process. In case if you purchased a custom domain from a third-party service provider, you can also do it by yourself. And let's do that on the example of this GoDaddy domain provider. Here I'm logged into the DNS settings of my domain. It's going to have approximately the same look on any other domain provider. So what I need to do here is to add a new TXT record. To do that, I just click on Add. I need to choose here the TXT. As a host, I'll just put the @ sign. As a TXT value, I will just add this snippet of text from here, and then I just click Save. It might take some time for changes to propagate, so you might want to return back to Google Search Console a bit later. But once the verification is completed, you will get the access to the Google Search Console. And to finalize the sitemap submission, here you will see this sitemap submenu on the left. And here you will just be prompted to enter the URL of the sitemap and click on Submit. And after that, the Google crawler will start crawling your website eventually. So, and to find out whether your website is in Google or not, you can write the next comment in a Google search. You can say site, then put a colon, and then write the URL of your website. I'll put the Boxmode here for now. And if this returns results, it means that your website was indexed. If it's going to be empty, it means that your website has not been crawled yet. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions about what we just discussed, and I'll get back to you during the Q&A. So now let's go back to our website and talk about the Robots.txt file. So what is Robots.txt file? Basically, it is a text file that is located in the root folder of your website. And all Boxmode websites do have this file by default. But if you're using some different CMS platform that does not have it, and if you would like to create such file, make sure it is written robots.txt, all lowercase, and located exactly into the root folder of your website, like you can see here. Otherwise, the search engines won't be able to find it. So why do we need the robots.txt file? So this file, it contains instructions to different search engines about pages of your website they should not add to their index. So it might sound counterintuitive. Why would you want some pages from your website to be blocked in search? So let me elaborate. Not all content on your website, it needs to be or should be found. Like low quality, low value pages, pages with duplicate content, they all could dramatically decrease the overall site quality score in the eyes of Google. And therefore, it is reasonable to block such pages. Like it could be a shopping cart page in an e-commerce site, or a generic not found page, or thank you page. So we'll check a couple of examples in a moment. But for now, let's go back to our website builder and check what directives we have in this robots.txt file. So the first thing that we can see here says user agent, then colon, and then this asterisk sign. So what it means, As I mentioned before, there are lots of different search engines out there, and different search engine crawlers, they have their own name. For example, Google crawler has a Googlebot name, or Bing crawler has a Bingbot name. And when we put the asterisk sign next to the user agent command, what we basically say that the directives below will be related to all search engines. So this asterisk sign is like a wild card that represents all search engines at once. But if you wanted to to make these commands only to some particular search engine, for example, the Google. So we would have added the Google bot instead, like this. So the next thing that we can see here is allow and a /. What it basically means is that we allow all search engines to crawl all the pages of our website. But if you wanted to block some pages from being crawled, in such case, we would need to write the disallow command. And then we can add the URL / of the page we would like to block. So let's say you want to block this events page on this particular website. So what we can do here is say disallow / and the URL / of that page. And if you wanted to block more pages, so in such case, we need to write from the new line, again, disallow / and the URL / of the page we would like to block. And notice that we write each comment from the new line and do not put everything in one line because it can confuse the crawlers. And in case if your website is under production and you don't want it to appear in search yet, you can say disallow and put a /. Means it will block all the pages from being crawled. But don't forget to remove this comment after your website is live. So, and also as you can see, we added here the sitemap. So we say sitemap : and we put the URL of the sitemap. And there is another controversial point in SEO. Even if you block some of the pages from being crawled using the Robots.txt file, there is still a chance that search engines will crawl and save such a page in its index anyway. So if you have sensitive information, it has to be password protected, so the robots won't be able to reach it. Soon we are planning to release the online store functionality, and this file along with the sitemap will be especially handy for e-commerce websites. And let's examine on the example of Amazon how we can use it. And let's open this shopping cart page. So there is no need for this shopping cart to be in search results for any search queries. People don't look in Google for Amazon shopping carts. Information on this page, it does not have any value for potential user. And if you go to Amazon Robots.txt file, we'll see exactly that it blocks this shopping cart here using the disallow command. So another example is, let's open this today's deal page. We can see here a lot of different unrelated products. Basically, you cannot put these products under any meaningful category, and no one is really searching in Google for the page that contains a list of different unrelated products, and this page does not have value for potential users of the Google search. So it is not the best idea for this page with dynamically created product items to be crawled and indexed by Google. And here's another important concept why we need to block such pages. It's a crawling budget. So it is the time and the resources that search engines are willing to spend on collecting information on your website. So, and if you have thousands upon thousands of pages on your website, search engines, they might not want to, and they will not crawl all of them. So using the sitemap and the robots.txt file, you'll be able to ensure that only the most relevant pages and the groups of pages of your website will be crawled by Google, and to block irrelevant pages from being crawled. So let me know if the concepts I described here were clear enough, and we can discuss questions you might have about the robots.txt file during the Q&A. So, and also I'll ask my colleague to share a link to an article we wrote about the robots.txt in the chat, so that it can provide you with more detailed information about this file. Now let's go to our page editor and examine some of the important things that Google pays attention to when analyzing the page content. And here is the same website in edit mode. And this drop-down menu, I have access to all the pages of my website. And I can get access to the global page settings from here. And I'd like to start with the page URL. So it is considered a good practice to have concise, descriptive, and human-readable URL on all your pages. So by reading the URL, anyone can understand what the page is about. And if you have several words in the URL, make sure to use a hyphen to separate them. Don't use the underscore or any other signs. Also use all lowercase. So it is recommended by Google. So the next step is a page meta title. And if we examine the search result snippet, we will see that the page meta title is usually added below the page URL in the search results. The page meta title, it should contain the keywords that you would like to rank for. So remember that titles have to be written for your potential website visitors. So at the same time, you don't want to stuff mindlessly keywords in the meta title and make titles look unnatural. And the title of the page, it should correspond also with the content of the page. Google doesn't like the mismatch between the meta title and the content. Also, the title of the page has to be unique for each page, because you don't want different pages of your website to compete for the same keywords. And the length of the title should be no more than 50 or 60 characters, because if it is longer, Google will truncate it and put 3 dots in after that, and it won't look good from the user perspective. And Google is all about the user experience. So remember the simple principles when writing the meta title. And also, if you can put the name of your company or brand in the meta title, and use this pipeline sign to do that. And another thing that is important is a page meta description. And if we check our search result snippet, meta description can appear before the page meta title. And the rules for writing the meta description are almost the same. It has to contain keywords you would like to be ranked for. It has to be written for people nicely and clearly, because people will read the description before deciding whether they would like to click on the search result snippet or not. Also, it should correspond with the topic of the page, because again, if there is a mismatch between the meta title, meta description, and the content on the page, people who click on it, they will be disappointed and return to Google to do more searches, and increasing, therefore, so-called bounce rate. And the negative signals will be sent to Google, telling that this page, it does not answer the question that it's supposed to answer, and Google will make such pages lower in ranking, and we don't want that. And another thing to remember is that title, meta description, it should be no longer than 160 characters. Because again, if it's longer than that, Google will crop it and put 3 dots to the end. But Google also uses a different snippet from the page, other than title, when to display in search results. It happens when Google considers that snippet more relevant to the search intent of the user. So another thing is the meta keywords. Here you can add a comma-separated keywords that describe what this page is about. And keywords, they used to have a big weight in the search ranking, but keywords were exploited by webmasters who wanted to beat the competition in the search by stuffing all kinds of keywords in here. But search engines became smarter and they don't endorse such behavior any longer. And some SEO experts might tell you that you can even skip adding meta keywords to your page nowadays because Google doesn't consider it as a ranking factor any longer, but some experts in the field still use them. It is up to you whether to use and to add keywords here, but you need to make sure that the keywords, when added, they needs to be related to the content of the page to avoid any mismatch. So now let's check this canonical link. Sometimes on your website, you might have duplicate content. And for example, a copy of manufacturer's description of the product you sell. Or you have several marketing landing pages that basically speaking about the same thing, but under slightly different angle. And if the page does not bring any unique take on the subject, or it consists entirely of copy-pasted content, you could add here the URL of the master page from where the content was taken from, so that this page won't try to compete with the master page in the search results, and it won't dilute the possible traffic from search between similar pages. And here we have this no index toggle option. Basically, if we enable it, it will add the so-called no index meta tag to the page. It means that Google won't be saving the content of the page where this tag is added, but the Google will still be able to crawl the page and check all the links. So it is especially useful, for example, for blog pagination pages. And when it's not a very good idea for the page with a list of blog posts to be shown in search results, it is still good for Google to crawl and index individual blog items mentioned on this page. So, and here we have this disallow crawling links or no follow option. If we enable it, it will add the so-called no follow meta tag. And it means that if it's enabled, Google will be able to crawl the content of this page and save the content of this page in its index, but it will not follow any links that are mentioned on this page. If we enable both, basically Google will not crawl the page and will not check any links. So, and after discussing this no index, no follow options and our Robots.txt file, you might ask, what is the difference between disallowing page from being crawled using this disallow option in the Robots.txt file and using this no index, no option, no follow option? So as you remember, I mentioned another controversial point in SEO regarding this disallowing command. Even if you disallow some page from being crawled using the Robots.txt, there's still a chance that this page will be crawled and it will appear in search results. It could happen when some external link on some third-party website points to the page you blocked through the Robots.txt. And the no index option is considered more powerful to make sure that the page is not going to be indexed. So if you have some piece of content that is better not to be shown in search engine results, use the no index option and no follow. So if it's not that crucial, use the Robots.txt. It's more preferable, especially for big websites. So it is more convenient for you to track all pages that you blocked in one place. But at the same time, do not use both options simultaneously, because if you disallow a page from being crawled using the Robots.txt directive and using the no index and no follow options, The Google crawler might not see these directives, and it will still crawl the page anyway, and it can appear in search anyway. So do not use both options at the same time. But again, if you would like to be 100% sure that some of the content on your website will not appear in search, it has to be password protected. So are you not bored? Is it confusing? Let me know in the chat. We're almost finished. We have two final points for today to discuss. It's the so-called H1 tag and image alternative text. So the H1 tag is the HTML tag that represents the main heading on the web page. And each page should have only one main heading. And our templates do have this heading added by default on all pages. So the heading, it should contain the main message of the particular page. It obviously should stand out and draw attention. This is the first thing that the users will read when browsing a website and the web page. So no wonder Google pays special attention to what is written inside here to understand the context of the page. So the text written here, it should contain focused keywords that you would like this page to be ranked for, and it also should answer the user's intent. The optimal length of the heading is should be from 20 to 70 characters long. And using the Boxmode tools, it can be modified on fly. We can just simply click on it, click on edit, and you know what to do. In case if you're building a page from the scratch using the Boxmode tools, to add a heading to the page, you can click on this add a widget option, go to the typography subsection and grab the heading and drop it where you need it to be, like this. But at the same time, do not confuse the paragraph element with the heading. Even if you add a paragraph to the page, and even if you make it look like a heading by increasing the font size and make it stand out, it's still not going to be considered as a main heading in the eyes of search engines, and therefore it will not have the same weight when it comes to analyzing the page. So the main heading on the page, it should be represented as the heading element. It's going to be true for other CMS platforms. And the final thing for today is so-called image alternative text. And people are visual thinkers, and obviously adding a nice image to your website, it's a good way to convey information. But adding an image is not going to be sufficient enough in terms of SEO without description. And when I say image, I don't mean the image of the background image of the container on your website that serves more of a decorative purpose. I say the image of the service or product that you sell. And in our example, this is the image of the book cover. And the alt attribute is the textual representation of the image. And to modify the alt attribute using our tools, you can just click on the image, click on the edit, click on change the text. And here you can write basically the text. So this text is not going to be shown to regular users, but there are several reasons why we need to add it anyway. Without this description, the search engines, they won't understand the meaning of the image. So the description helps search engines to understand what this image is about, and in turn, it will help the search image to rank in image search results in Google. And this is especially useful for businesses that merchandise some physical goods. And having your product appear in the image search results will definitely give your product more awareness and additional traffic in return. Another point why to add this text is that sometimes your website can be accessed from the area with a poor internet connection, and the image loading might fail. And instead of the image, this text will be shown. Also, don't forget that people with visual impairments, they also browse your website. and they use assistive technologies such as screen readers, and the screen reader will basically read what this image is about to the person. And when you write an image description, remember that it has to describe information and not the picture itself, and it should be no longer than 125 characters. So let me briefly summarize. The world of search engine optimization is complex and ever-changing, but you can easily understand the basics, and even a small amount of SEO knowledge can make a big difference. And at the same time, the SEO is as much about people as it is about search engines. And it is about understanding what people are searching for online, the answers they're looking for, the keywords they're using, and knowing the answers to these questions will allow you to connect to the people who are searching online for the solutions and products that you offer. And with the Boxmode, you have tools that you need to implement a successful SEO strategy. And before we go to the questions, I would like to briefly mention that we have a limited offer that will be valid until mid-spring. It is only $33 per year. And even though you can create a website using Boxmode with no cost, basic subscription will give you additional benefits, such as 5 gigabytes of extra storage. It will give you chat support. It will remove Boxmode branding from your website. And also you will get custom domain for free for 1 year. And finally, I would like to say a couple of words about our plans for nearest future. We are about to release advanced analytic tools. Also, it will be possible to add a custom code soon, and it will allow schema markup implementation. And schema markup is another important tool for on-page optimization, but we simply don't have enough time to cover it, and it could be a great topic for future webinars. So also we are planning to release the online store functionality, and blog will be ready soon as well. That will provide you with instruments to implement your content and marketing strategies. And thank you for your patience, and let me check the questions. I have a question from Olivia. How much time does the website verification process take? It is said that it could take from 20 up to 24, 48 hours, but when I did it last time, it took me no more than a couple of minutes. Alicia Anderson, not bored yet. Oh, thanks, Alicia. Appreciate that. A question from John. You said it's free. Why do I need to pay for it? Well, John, it's indeed free, but if you check the free website, as you can see here, it has this branding, and when you purchase a subscription, it will basically remove the branding. Also, you get the additionally free custom domain, 5 gigabytes of extra storage, and also you have a live chat support. And a question from George. Vlad, what other data can I add to the sitemap? Let's go back to our sitemap. Where is it? So another thing that you can add to the sitemap is this change frequency thing. You can say change frequency, and it basically tells you basically tell search engines how frequent you would like this page to be crawled. But many people say that the search engines it does not that it does not pay attention to the information that you put in the change frequency. Well, the more appropriate information, the more useful information is to use this last mod information in this sitemap. Question from Eric: please repeat the recommended number of characters for the heading. Well, it is said to be from 20 to 70 characters long. You know, if you have any other questions. Well, if you don't have, okay, I can see a question from Olivia. What is a schema markup? Well, basically, schema markup is the additional information that you provide search engines with about the content on your web page, and so that search engines can display this content in the search results in a unique way. Yes. So and let me show you an example of this schema markup. So and here you can see the example of the schema markup. So this search snippet has a customized look. It has this drop-down thing that answers a certain questions. So this is an example of a schema markup. There's a lot more to it. And again, I think once it is ready, we can make more detailed webinar and discuss what other interesting things can be done with it. A question from Eric: does Boxmode replace WordPress? Well, I wouldn't say that. Like we have our own way, I would say. We're not aimed to replace them now. Maybe in the future. So if you don't have any questions for now, to stay tuned for recent platform updates, for our plans, news, etc. You can join our Facebook community. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Instagram, to our LinkedIn, to our Twitter. You'll find the links to them in the description to this video, and also my colleague will share it with you in the chat. So since we don't have any questions for now, I really appreciate you being with me today, and I really hope it was informative and useful, and I was excited to be the host of this webinar, and hope to see you next time, and goodbye.